Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral service of Clara Kornfeld. Rabbi Natalie Young from Beth Emet, the Free Synagogue in Evanston, will be officiating. Please take a moment now to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. On Sunday and Monday from 1 to 5 p.m., the family will be having a gathering and a receiving at the residence at 2206 Orrington Avenue in Evanston. For the people that are here today, you're invited back to the residence. Please keep in mind that you don't need to have a sticker. The service will, if you're going back to the house, the service will not need a neighborhood parking tag if you park on the 2100 or 2200 blocks of Orrington. We arranged with the Evanston parking supervisor not to issue tickets. Memorial contributions to Beth Emet or Hadassah would be appreciated. And for those people that are watching via online, all that information is on our website. Following the service here, we'll ask the grandchildren to come forward to serve as pallbearers, and we're all going to walk as one community to the grave for the interment service. Once again, please be sure your phones are off, not to disturb the sacred funeral ceremony as Cantor Young begins the service.
I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help come from Adonai, ruler of heaven and earth. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, and your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing to love, a holy thing to love, what death has touched. O God, you abide amid the ceaseless tides of time that sweep away the generations. We have come to this place, to this moment in eternity, to say goodbye to all that remains mortal of your child, Clara. While we are gathered here to mourn her loss, today is also a celebration of her life. 102 years on this earth. Today, we celebrate her legacy of love and family, represented here today by 4 living generations. That's an incredible legacy. And we continue to share the many beautiful stories and memories that represent a life well lived. Through them, Clara's memory will remain a bright beacon to guide us in our journey ahead. We ask God's blessings upon you, her friends, her family, her community, May you all derive comfort and strength from the storehouse of sacred memory, and may you draw strength from her legacy. May Clara continue to watch over you from on high, and may her memory remain an eternal blessing. Zichrona livracha. So today, we have these 4 incredible generations who will be sharing stories and memories. And I want to first invite up Clara's great-grandchildren.
I'm Jillian. I'm Sophie. I'm Olivia.
I'm Melanie.
I'm Dylan. Nico.
Lou. Teddy. Herbie.
All of us grandchildren deeply admired our great-grandma, who we all call Gigi, and feel unbelievably lucky to have grown up with her in our lives. Gigi taught us how to play piano, patiently sitting right next to us on the piano bench. Up until her final years, a family gathering was never complete without Gigi behind the piano, playing the songs that she never seemed to forget. One of the things we remember most about Gigi and her speeches, sitting around Nana and Papa's dining room table, our little eyes would stare with admiration, listening to her wise advice. She told funny stories too, and we could always count on her to make us laugh. She was truly inspirational to all of us and showed us how important family and tradition is. In the last few years of her life, we all had the opportunity to go visit her on her 99th, 100th, 101st, and some of us even for her 102nd birthday. Year after year, we would bring decorated posters and brownies, lots of chocolate. She was a true fighter. Gigi had a way of lighting up any room, and she loved deeply and fully all of us. We will forever remember Gigi and continue to keep her stories alive.
I'd like to invite up her grandchildren.
That was very nice, very nice. The great-grandchildren, and I'm the oldest grandchild here, and I'm who made Gigi a grandma. I have so many great childhood memories, with Grandma Clara that we grew up calling her. Obviously, she's become different names to different people. But we have so many great childhood memories with Grandma Clara. When we were young, Andrew and I would spend overnights at her house. When, she was at all our family occasions through the years. I've always loved how she kept our family together, and really what made it really special growing up, and even seeing my Grandma Shirley and my Grandma Clara so connected and getting along so well, and really teaching us how important family is, and seeing family love each other and be there for each other like today. She just taught us amazing lessons, and we're all so blessed to spend, that she lived 102 years, and we, have terrific memories of hearing stories of growing up in Benton Harbor, and getting together with the Marcus extended family, and it's just so many lovely memories of that. And we just so fortunate to have experienced such a wonderful grandma who taught my mother to be a wonderful mother, and we're just so blessed to have this time with her.
I'm Andrew. I'm Josh's much younger brother. We do all feel so lucky to have gotten to spend 102 years. Well, not 102 years. But Grandma had 102 years, and I got to share 48 of it. But like Josh said, I mean, we feel super blessed that we got to grow up near our grandma, and certainly for all the grandkids, we feel super lucky that they get to be near at least one set of their grandparents and their family. So just a lot of fond memories from Grandma. I just wrote some random thoughts down, but she was always present, at meals and holidays, very rarely at sporting events. I don't remember ever coming to a baseball game, but she was full of life. She would go dancing with her friends, and she always had fancy earrings on. I remember when she would go. She always had friends, male friends and female friends who she did a lot with. I have a random memory of her buying my first set of golf clubs out of a garage right near her condo. I don't know who the guy was, or I still have the clubs if anybody's looking for a 45-year-old set of golf clubs. Whenever she'd come to our house, we all took piano lessons, and it was probably one of the more torturous things that we did as kids, and we all took lessons for a long time, and we're all terrible at playing the piano. But Grandma would show up, probably never had taken a lesson, no sheet music, and she would play beautiful music. So I don't know how she did that. When my parents would travel, Grandma would occasionally stay with us. A couple memories of that. She would let us put sugar on our cereal, which my parents never let us do. Josh and I would play our video games, and she would get upset at us for playing so much, but she called the video games the idiot box. So just imagine how she felt about cell phones. A few weeks ago, we were lucky enough to go see Grandma on her 102nd birthday. And I was just really moved because my mom had such an unbelievable amount of patience and love, and my mom, had made flashcards that Gigi read. And when I was watching my mom read with Gigi these flashcards, I just couldn't, that's what love is, and I just sort of in my mind pictured a long time ago when probably Gigi was helping Mom learn how to read. And it's kind of how life, comes full circle. But I think the other lesson I took away is that everybody needs a daughter. And thankfully, I think we all have daughters who will hopefully take as good a care of us as my mom did to Gigi. And so I just feel lucky to be able to see family and celebrate 102 years of a wonderful life.
I did write something, but I'm going to open up with something different. And I want to say my friend Steve is here, which is Keith, and Grandma always called him Steve, just from the beginning. She never got his name right, which cracked us up, but he knew he was Steve, and it was okay. So that's my ad lib, Mom. Mom said not to ad lib. Oh, I'm Laura. I'm the daughter. Grandma Clara, or Gigi, as the kids named her, was a remarkable woman and one of my role models. Years ago, on one of my visits to Park Plaza with the girls to bring Grandma chocolate, as she loved, she wanted me to put a sign up on her wall that said, "Let it go." because I think she worried a lot and she just wanted a way to remember not to worry. So the girls, when they used to come when they were little, we would always draw pictures and put them up. So her room at Park Plaza was full of pictures that the girls made and the sign that said, "Let it go." So if you worry a lot, you can take Grandma's advice and we can come draw you a picture that says, "Let it go." Sorry. Grandma cared for and loved us all so deeply and wanted the best for us. I hope to be able to continue her tradition that she passed along to my mom of being a welcoming house and be the host of holidays and many family occasions. I probably won't be as good of a cook as her or my mom, but that's where y'all lived. We owe Grandma so much and are so fortunate to have had her in our life for so long. And one thing I'm very impressed with Grandma is she was in hospice and graduated hospice. How many people do that? So she's a true fighter and we love her forever.
My name is also Andrew, and I am also a grandson of Clara. Howard Kornfeld is my dad. So I'm coming back to a moment that we had a couple years ago, I want to say 2019, and we were all gathered around Grandma's bed. I think she was sitting up, and she started to speak and tell us that she felt that she wouldn't be on the earth forever. And it came from her heart, I think, and her number one wish that she had was that we would all love each other deeply. And when I look at all of you and I look at our family here, and I think of the many memories I've had with Grandma Clara, how many times she would call me, how many conversations I would have with her, even being a little boy and walking on the Big Sur, California coast with her at a place that shaped my dad, knowing that she encouraged my dad to be a physician and be a doctor, and seeing all of the things that my dad has been able to do in the world in many ways because of his mother and because of my grandmother. Clara, I love you very much, grandmother. I also want to say that my other grandmother was also a centenarian. They were friends with one another. And I got to facilitate when Clara was about 89 and my grandmother was 99, I got to facilitate a conversation between them, a last conversation. And they talked about raising me together. And they talked about their old memories and their friendships. And it was just a really beautiful, beautiful moment. And I just want to say, I think with Grandma Clara's wish of love in our family and peace amongst one another, I am so grateful to see all of you in this family and to see how many generations she is responsible for. So we love you, Grandmother. Thank you.
Good job.
I'm Ben. I'm David's son. Okay. So I know that I'm up here to represent my generation, but I know that I carry more with me than Dad. My grandmother had 5 children, and one is not able to be with us here today. Were he still with us, I'm sure he would have shared any number of personal anecdotes and observations with a poetic eloquence that would far exceed what I'm able to bring today. But I know with certainty that my dad loved his mom, and that his close relationship with my grandma Clara helped keep me connected to her my whole life. I will never forget all of the visits to the different places that she lived when I was growing up, and how excited my dad always was to bring her various Jewish baked goods like rugelach and kickel, and how much Grandma was really excited to be on the receiving end of those things. She was such a radiant focal point around which so many different family members related to one another and found a common bond for over a century. She was so proud to point to each of those family members in all of the pictures that she had in countless frames all throughout her apartment. She was always open and warm to welcome new family members from near and very, very far at holidays, including my own as we created a new branch to our family tree. It's already been talked about her love of music and skill with that music, which permeated the generations and comes through each week in my own daughter's fingertips when they practice on the same piano that she once played. Any memory I have of her is from when she was almost 70 years old, at a time in a person's life when it would be reasonable to feel like one's days are numbered. But she provided another lifetime of wisdom, humor, and physical presence for so many of us that we couldn't have known was coming. Which is why I want to end with my very first memory of my Grandma Clara. In the front yard of my Aunt Reva's house on a sunny day, playing with me and all of the other children, doing an actual headstand. It was amazing then, and is even more so now. I love you, Grandma.
Mismor le David, Adonai rohi lo echsar, bino desher bitzeni, al mei menuchot yenaleni, nafshi shoved, ינחני ומגלי צדק למען שמו גם כי ילך בגיץ על מוות לא יירא רע כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך הם ינחמוני תרוק לפני שולחן נגד צורריי דישנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Holy One, you care for me, I am content. You lead me to still waters, places of rest and renewal. You guide me down the right path to live a good life. When I walk through a valley of deepest darkness, I feel no harm, for you are with me. Signs of your nearness offer me support and comfort. When faced with fear, your love flows over me and sustains me. As I journey on, loving kindness finds me. Each day of my life, I come home to you. This time I'd like to invite up Clara's nieces and nephews.
I like to talk about my earliest recollection of my Aunt Clara Kornfeld, as she was known on the farm. It was midway during the war. I was about 8, and I absolutely admired my Aunt Clara. I thought she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She was always just so pretty, and she was so kind, and she was kind to me. And I thought her dress was so snappy and current, and I just was impressed with her. I was talking to Uncle Dave. I have a vision of her wearing saddle shoes, and when I saw her in those saddle shoes, I was 8 years old. I thought, wow, that's really something. She and my Aunt Miriam left Benton Harbor and went to the city, Chicago, and on to New York and elsewhere during this period. And I was certain she was involved in the war effort and doing something important. And when she came out to the farm and I was there, it was just a joyous time for me because she was so sweet and kind and loving and ideal aunt. Later on, after I served in the Armed Forces in the Navy, and during my active duty period, I was not able to come home for Passover, which was a big event. But what brought solace to me was the wonderful seders that she would have at her house. And it was spiritual, it was pleasing, it was just a remarkable, wonderful family experience that she put on for the family. And seders at my Aunt Clara's house lasted for quite a while and was something always to look forward to. And so to the children, the grandchildren, going back 80 years, I like to bring the recollection that I have for her then to you today. She was a loving, wonderful person, a beautiful lady, and we're all fortunate that we had her in our life.
I'm Michelle Kreindel's niece. My father was Joseph. They were closest in age and best friends. My brother was supposed to be here today, but he's deathly ill, so I'm speaking. I posted on Facebook, some of you may have seen the pictures, but Clara was the definition of family. From the minute I can remember, every holiday and occasion was at Clara's house. My bubby had 9 children, 4 sons, 5 daughters, but the lot fell to my Aunt Clara from Jeffrey Manor all the way to Evanston. And it was always such a joy. And she welcomed everyone into her kitchen. We would get there very early in the morning. And she put up with the crane wars, where's Eddie, of the 70s, I believe, between you and Uncle Harry, who could make the hottest and crane that would make you cry. But just wonderful. All of our family, when I hear about, the hospitality of Riva and now passed on to Laura, and it all came from Aunt Kreindel, because she was the epitome of hospitality and family. And then also in the summers, she would allow the cousins to come and stay in Evanston with her. I'm sure Debbie may speak to that. Debbie and Julie, the California cousins, myself. Always an open house, an open heart, and always love. And that was my Aunt Kreindel. And I am so thankful for all of those memories. And Marty, I just have to say, since Eddie mentioned Pesach, Uncle Dave, Marty would be ready to leave the table because the seders went late, and Uncle Dave, no, Marty's the best singer. Chad God, yeah, Marty, Chad God, yeah. Thank you.
I'm Debbie, Cyril's daughter, and everyone has talked about the hospitality of Aunt Clara. I mean, it was about Passover, and it was so beautiful last night, seeing the tradition of bringing the whole family together at Laura's that she got from Riva, and that it continues, and I thank you both so much for that. And the holidays at Aunt Clara's were just incredible, and I remember we'd get there early, and Mom and Aunt Clara and Aunt Minnie and Aunt Miriam would be sitting around the table until all hours, laughing and smoking and cooking and smoking and laughing and a little cooking, and it just was so, I thought that's what you do with your sisters, because at that point I just wanted to kill mine. And she really set the example. She was always loving and forgiving, and we were always welcome. And like Michelle said, the highlight of our summer was when Mom would dump us off at Aunt Clara's, and we could do whatever we wanted at her house. We got to stay up late, we could jump on all the furniture, we got to sleep late, we got square hamburgers for breakfast, which was just the biggest treat in the world. She was just so fun and glamorous and beautiful and welcoming. I lived with her when I was flight attendant at American, and I don't even know how I ended up in her house, but she's just was like, you'll live with me. And the thing that I learned from her was to think outside the box. You know, she really had that ability, starting with, you know, when we were dumped off. She was a single mother, she was working. All of a sudden she's got 3 more kids in the house, and instead of saying, oh my God, she figured out, well, if I let them stay up late, they'll sleep late, and then I don't have to worry about them in the morning. And I remember when I was at Northwestern, she wanted to give us a couch, and my roommates and I, but we didn't know how to get it. It was huge. And then one horrible winter day, I remember she called, she's like, I had an idea. She said, the streets are frozen over, so you and your girlfriends can just push the couch to your apartment in the street. And we did. And people were just like driving by, looking at us, and when we got tired, we'd sit on it. And it was just, that was the way her mind worked. And she was just the most wonderful, loving aunt. She was there for us. She was a mother figure to everyone, and I just really miss her. And I thank you, Eva, for organizing this.
We are gifts, and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope, and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words, and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Letor vador nagid god lecha. Letor vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. Letor vador, these lips will praise your name. It is my honor to invite up Clara's children.
I'm Riva. As many of you know, my mom grew up on a small farm in Benton Harbor, Michigan. She was the 5th child out of 8, 4 girls and 4 boys. They all worked very hard, helping in the fields or in the house or taking care of the animals. They were very poor much of the time, but they always had a wonderful homegrown food, meals that the farm supplied. My mom suffered constant teasing from her brothers, but she also thrived in many ways. She climbed trees, she walked on walls, she ran, jumped, leaped over cemetery stones, and all with not a single gymnastics class. A favorite story about my mom is this. One day, her father and an older brother or two brought home an old piano that they were going to chop up for firewood. She was fascinated and sat down at the piano out in the yard and started playing recognizable music and songs. Fortunately, her father, after some time, was convinced to take the piano inside, and it became a favorite activity of my mom's. She never had a single piano lesson, but for the rest of her life, she could sit down at the piano and play any requested music. This talent lasted into the last years of her life at Dobson Plaza, where even with dementia, she sat at the piano and was able to pick out the notes for some of her favorites. Happy Birthday, the Dreidel Song, Doe a Deer from Sound of Music, and the biggest surprise tune, My Country 'Tis of Thee, from her childhood. I am fortunate to have a few items from the farm years and later that we treasure. I have a homemade children's rocker, some bowls, pots, cooking tools, and dishes. But my mom also handed down to me so much that is not concrete. She was the most incredible hostess, as you have been hearing. Her family seders grew to a huge number at her Evanston home, and she always welcomed new people who needed a place to celebrate. Her house was always open to overnight guests. Nieces and nephews had a blast. Faraway family were entertained royally. Years later, my mom and her sister Miriam lived with their mother, my Bubby, so they could care for her near the end of her life. My mom was a really good cook too. Her recipes for turkey, stuffing, brisket, and much more are now mine. And like my Bubby's recipes, they are very vague and ask for a little of this and a little of that. Look what's in the cabinet, use it up. This has made it very hard to give anyone else the recipe. I realize that the person I have become has been so influenced by my mom's generosity, cleverness, and openness to others, and I am so grateful. Some of you in this room may have been the recipient of a multi-page, handwritten on both sides of the paper, letter from Clara, full of advice, wisdom, encouragement, and also with a serious message. You were probably doing or not doing something in your life that she didn't approve of. She didn't want to anger you in person or on the phone, but she felt her many, many words were needed to help set you straight. So when you're in a quandary, you don't know how to proceed, maybe you've made some mistakes, ask yourself, what would Clara write? You may not know this, but my mom has become a YouTube star, at least in our family. Josh has recorded and saved the many speeches my mom has given at every occasion, dinner and holiday gathering. She was always asked if she had anything to say, and she never hesitated. The theme of her talks was always about family togetherness, caring, helping, supporting one another. And she emphasized the importance of carrying this message through the generations. I am so grateful that we were able to have 4 generations at the table to hear her words of wisdom. With my mom's actions and words, I was inspired to become the person I am today.
I want to also
call forth the spirit of our brother David. And thank you for Ben for your contribution, and Emma for being here. My mother was the matriarch in the spirit of her own mother, Bubby, and the mantle of both has now been passed on to my loving sister, Riva. My mom was once a late teenager leaving the farm on which she grew up. It would have been hard to project at that time how she eventually tackled the world of Chicago, traveling to the West Coast to support the war effort, and eventually meeting the up-and-coming student and military officer, Jerome Kornfeld, our father. As the years passed and children came, my mother maintained a powerful grip on all aspects of our own family, as well as a strong influence on the families of her 6 siblings. She was also a keen observer and commentator on world events. I remember how she had us watch Abba Eban, the Israeli ambassador at the United Nations, represent Eretz Yisrael at the time of the Six-Day War. When I was in high school and asked her if I could attend an all-summer program of the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization, which was expensive for our family at that time, she immediately sat down, filled out the application, and wrote a substantial check for the cost without a moment's hesitation. That program, right after the Six-Day War, helped me grow and understand leadership in the world. Many of you know how she guided me without wavering to medical school. I wasn't always completely self-directed. She was behind me quite a bit of the time. Mom, you were always there when I called or needed something. You embraced all of my own family and developed a special and warm connection with Trish, who she loved very much, and to Andrew, Anna, and Michael, who she adored. Our children remember, and grandchildren, our children remember a memorable speech you gave at Riva's house when you were in your late 90s, and that memory is a blessing for us. We will miss you always.
Well, I didn't write anything down, so just gonna ad-lib here a little. There are so many great-grandchildren and grandchildren. Clara also had 2 grandchildren, Marissa and Zachary, out in California, and 4 great-grandchildren, Matthew and Ella, Elias and Yanis, and they're tuning in with the live stream, and they love you, Grandma. So I have some memories of growing up in a house that was just full of music, and just from classical music to folk music to Alan Sherman's comedy albums, and it was just constant music. And Fiddler on the Roof, I learned every word from every song that she played week after week, day after day. And at the risk of getting too meta here, metaphorical or metaphysical, or just meta hyper-realistic, I know that it's a wonderful feeling that Mom is with Miriam now, and she's with Dave now. And Dave might have something to say about that, you know. But whether it's just metaphorical or actually real, Mom, our heart, our love is always with you, and we feel your love in our hearts forever. Thank you.
Ask that together we rise as one community for our memorial prayer. תחת כנפי השכינה עם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Crindle, Clara, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May Clara rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
This concludes the service here at the chapel. We're going to be walking to the graveside. And as mentioned before the service, we'll have all the grandchildren come forward and act as pallbearers. We'll walk behind the casket until we get through the double doors. And a reminder for those present here that are going to the Shiva house, there's parking on the 21 and 2200 block of Orrington, and you don't need a parking pass for that. So if we can have all the grandkids come forward.